All right, now we're going to do an example using the midline theorem. Again, that's a theorem where if B and D are midpoints, there are two things that we can assume about this midline right here. So, given that B and D are midpoints, so what that means is that these two are congruent and these are congruent. Find the measure of angle E, the measure of angle C, and AE. And they also told us that BD equals 13. So BD is 13. So I think that finding AE is going to be the fastest one. If you remember that your midline is half the length of your base right here. So what that would look like is we would say BD, so our midline is equal to half of the length of AE. And we know that BD is 13, so we have 13 is equal to half of AE. And you can go about this a couple ways. You could solve it just like an equation. If you were to do that, you could divide by a half on both sides. You could multiply both sides by 2, doing a little fraction trick. Or you could just in your head say, well, half of what number would give me 13? So multiple ways to get there. Whichever one you choose that makes sense to you, hopefully you're finding that AE is equal to 26. All right, so now we have to find the measure of angle E and C, measure of angle E and C. Okay, so let's use the information that we have, and we will end up getting the measure of those two angles. If you remember, the other thing that we know about midlines is it is parallel to the base. So we've got parallel lines. You can treat this like a transversal cutting through parallel lines. And that would mean that these two angles are congruent. Those would be corresponding angles. So we know that 3x plus 20 is going to equal 50. So basically we're going to figure out what x is, and that's going to help us get the other angles. So let's solve this for x. And we're kind of just using what we can. So we're able to use that information to our benefit. 3x is equal to 30. Divide both sides by 3. So we know that x is equal to 10. So does that help us out? Well, it does, even though it might seem like we don't have the answers we need yet, but we're getting there. This angle right here, this 4x plus 6, is going to be congruent to this down here. Same thinking as the last one. Those are going to be corresponding angles. So if we can figure out what this angle measure is, it's going to be the same as angle E. So let's do that one next. We have your 4x plus 6. And we plug in x, so 4 times 10 plus 6. 4 times 10 is 40, plus 6 is 46. So this angle is 46 degrees right here, that's CDB, which also means that the measure of angle E is 46 degrees. So we have 2 of the 3 things we need. So the last thing that we need is to figure out what angle C is. Now, to figure out angle C, I think it's helpful for us to remember we have a triangle, and the sum of our interior angles for every triangle is 180 degrees. We just figured out that this one is 46 down here. We can figure out this bottom left one because we were told that it's 3x plus 20. Well, we know that x is 10, so let's go ahead and plug in a 10. 3 times 10 plus 20. 3 times 10 is 30. 30 plus 20 is 50. So this angle, A, is 50 degrees. And then all we need is that one up there. So you can take 180 and subtract out the two that we know. 180 minus 50 minus 46. You also could set it up like an equation. You could say 50 plus 46 plus x equals 180 and solve it that way. Either way, you'd be doing the same math and you're going to end up getting 84 degrees for angle C. All right. So we figured out the three things that they were asking us for.